Okay, so 1 year ago I made a video looking at the Apple roadmap for 2024 according to the rumors, and when I look back at this video now, I saw that almost all of the predictions made were correct. So I want to do the same thing again now for 2025 to let you know which products are good to buy right now and for which ones you should rather wait because there's an update coming out soon. Okay, so let's get started with the Mac and MacBook specifically because those are by far the most popular Macs. For the MacBook Air, we got an M3 MacBook Air at the beginning of 2024, and that was basically only a chip upgrade. It was almost unchanged from the M2 version except for the M3 chip that was then moved to that model. This year, the rumors say that the same thing will happen again, probably sometime within the next 6 to 8 weeks. So the MacBook Air will go from the M3 chip to the M4 chip. That might also mean that it gets a 32GB RAM option, because at least in the Mac Mini you can configure the M4 Mac Mini with 32GB of RAM, which would be quite cool for the MacBook Air. And it might also mean that the nano texture option that came to the MacBook Pros now also will come to the MacBook Air. That didn't happen on the iPad. When the nano texture came to the iPad Pro, the iPad Air still was just available as a glossy display, but I think it's still a pretty sensible option that this will come out on the MacBook Air this time, because I think Apple has been pushing the nano texture more and more. Therefore, I would say if you're in the market for a MacBook Air right now, I would wait a little bit more if you can. I mean, if you have like 6 to 8 weeks and don't need a laptop immediately, I think it's a good idea to wait, because the new version will either make the old one more cheap for you, or it will be more attractive than the current version due to the higher RAM or maybe some other stuff that might come out there. It won't be the most exciting upgrade according to the rumors. It will largely be unchanged, but I think it's always good to wait if you know that an upgrade is coming. Okay, so next up, the MacBook Pro. The MacBook Pro actually, out of all the Apple Silicon Macs, has been on the most consistent upgrade cycle ever since it moved to Apple Silicon in 2021. There was always an update pretty much every year during the end of the year. I think only for the M2 generation it was slightly delayed and it came out in January of the next year, but ever since then it was always like a fall upgrade, the MacBook Pro with the new chips, and that is probably what's going to happen again this year. So that means we got the M4 version now the fall of 2024, and we will probably get the M5 Pro, M5 Max in the fall of 2025. Other than that, there won't be a lot of changes to this MacBook Pro this year, so I think it's still a good time to buy the M4 version. The bigger redesign for the MacBook Pro is rumored to come out in 2026, so I think if you can wait that long, of course that would make a lot more sense, because when it's a whole new design, it will get an OLED screen, maybe like a different notch or a smaller notch, and that would obviously be the best option, but I doubt that if you're debating buying a MacBook Pro right now that you want to wait for another almost 2 years. So therefore, I would say the MacBook Pro, it's a good time to buy right now. It's just been updated. It has a great nano texture option now, which I haven't tried myself, but I saw it in the store. And according to the reviews, it looks great. Just get that. I don't think there's a reason to wait for the M5 version, just because it will be a very minimal upgrade. Okay, so let's move on to the iPad, and let's start off with the regular iPad. It was actually last updated in October of 2022, which is quite a long time ago. Back then, it got a new keyboard as well, and it was quite a big upgrade, but it's still rocking the A14 chip that was initially introduced in the iPhone 12. So the processor itself in the iPad currently is really old. We're rumored to get an upgrade to this very soon as well, with the A17 Pro chip from the iPhone 15 Pro and Max, so that will also allow it to support Apple Intelligence. And I would say, if you're in the market for the iPad with no Pro or Air, right now I think you should wait, because it will be like 2 years of added longevity. There won't be a lot of changes to the iPad itself, but just that processor bump from the A14 to the A17 will be a really big upgrade for this iPad. It's a lot more powerful chip, and I think it just makes sense to wait if you can, like 6 to 8 weeks also for this one. Next up, the iPad Air, and it got quite a big upgrade, I would say, last year. There was the 13-inch version that was introduced for the first time, which is really cool if you want a larger iPad but don't want to pay for the iPad Pro. And it also got the M2 chip, which is quite a powerful chip. I think this year it's also supposed to be upgraded pretty soon, which is a little bit surprising because it isn't that old. But it's mostly going to be a processor bump, probably from the M2 to the M3, maybe even from the M2 to the M4. But the bigger news about this upgrade to me is that it's supposed to get also a new Magic Keyboard, which is way more interesting than the iPad Air processor upgrade itself. I don't know if you remember, but last year when the iPad Pro M4 came out, Apple also came out with a new Magic Keyboard that was exclusive to the iPad Pro, and it was way better than the previous version. It has a bigger trackpad, a function key row, and it was also made of aluminum on the bottom portion, so it felt much more like a MacBook. So therefore, I think if you can wait. Of course, like it's also going to be like 6 to 8 weeks. These are all probably spring launches for Apple. But even if you buy the iPad right now, because the iPad itself, the iPad Air, will just be a processor bump. So I think it's also fine if you get a good deal on the M2 version now, just get it. I would still wait with the Magic Keyboard. If a new Magic Keyboard comes out, then it will probably most likely be compatible with the current iPad Air version. So I would say, at least if you want to buy the iPad right now, wait to buy a Magic Keyboard, because it's a really expensive accessory, and the Magic Keyboard that's available for the iPad Air currently just feels a lot more old and outdated now compared to the new Magic Keyboard for the iPad Pro. Okay, speaking of the iPad Pro got a big upgrade last year, so I think this year we can't expect anything major for this one. It has an M4 chip currently, and it might move to the M5 chip either late this year or early next year, but I think it's still a good time to buy the iPad Pro right now. If you remember the 2018 version of the iPad Pro, which was the last big redesign before the M4 version, it was like going strong for a really long time. People kept this iPad for like 6 years, and I think the same will go probably for the iPad Pro M4 that's available currently, just because every time the iPad gets redesigned, it's new hardware, it's really exciting, but the software keeps holding it back. So just get the best hardware you can, buy it when it's redesigned, just like now with the M4 version, and then there's no real reason to upgrade it from the M4 to the M5, for example. So I think the iPad Pro, it's a good time to buy right now, especially if you can get the first discounts maybe on the new models, and there's no real reason to wait for the M5 version. The only thing I would be looking forward to is maybe that the nano texture version could also be available on the lower storage tiers, because for the M4 version it's only available on the 1 or 2 terabyte versions, but I don't know how realistic that is, and I don't think it's worth waiting for just for that one feature alone. Then we also can't forget the iPad mini. Of course, it was updated in the fall of 2024, and it was quite a disappointing upgrade. It was mostly a chip upgrade, and also the Apple Pencil got changed to the Apple Pencil Pro, but other than that, there wasn't really a lot of changes to the iPad mini. And that means, I think, on the one hand, it's a good time to buy right now because it will stay like this for a while. But on the other hand, the iPad mini in general just isn't really updated that often. So it's kind of a disappointing product for some people at least. And I think it's a good time to buy right now if you really want an iPad mini. You can of course maybe consider some of the other iPad options that are updated more frequently if you can put up with the size of an iPad Air, for example. But if you really want an iPad mini, it's a good time right now, because unfortunately for the next version you will probably have to wait until 2026, maybe even longer. But 2026 is what's currently rumored for an OLED iPad mini, which would actually be a big upgrade, not like what we got last year. Okay, so next up, let's talk about the iPhone. And for the iPhone, this is always a pretty interesting time of the year, because the current iPhone is now almost a half a year old, and the next version is a little bit over half a year away. So let's start with the regular iPhone 16. The iPhone 17 that will replace the current iPhone 16 won't have any major changes according to the current rumors. It will stay mostly the same, maybe some slight camera upgrades here and there, maybe some other minor upgrades, but nothing major or groundbreaking. So I would say iPhone 16, just the regular version, it's fine to buy right now. It's a great phone, it looks great, I really like it. And I mean, of course there's always the option that we get ProMotion 120 Hz on the regular iPhone at some point, but I don't know how realistic it is that year. And if you're buying the iPhone 16 currently, it's probably not that important of a feature for you. So I think current iPhone 16 is fine. The iPhone 16 Plus is a different story. The iPhone Plus line was like the bigger iPhones that were similar in features to the regular cheapest iPhone, but similar in size to the Pro Max iPhone. And it was initially introduced with the iPhone 15, now 1.5 years ago. And that one allegedly will be replaced by a totally different model. So the iPhone Plus will not exist anymore for the iPhone 17 line. And the model that's going to be replacing it will be the thinnest iPhone ever, according to the rumors. They're not all agreeing on how thick it will be exactly. It will probably be something like 6 millimeters, maybe a bit less, maybe a bit more. But it should be the thinnest iPhone that was ever available, and it will replace the iPhone Plus. But the size will be more in between the Pro and Pro Max size. So it will be like 6.5, 6.6 inches, something like that. I think this is a really interesting rumor, because also it will have, of course, some shortcomings based on the thin size. So it will have less battery, maybe only one camera on the back. And I'm really excited to see what this looks like. I'm really interested in this because I think iPhones have gotten a bit thick and like heavy, especially if you look at this like iPhone 15 Pro Max. Like, they have gotten quite thick, especially with the boxy design that came out with the iPhone 12. And I would actually be really interested in trying out a thin iPhone. I don't know, of course, if I would use it, because it depends on what trade-offs they have to make. But that is something that is pretty likely that it will come out this year, because so many rumors have been confirming this in the past weeks and months. So we can pretty safely assume that the iPhone Plus is gone. That means if you want an iPhone Plus right now, I mean, you can get it. It will probably for a while be the cheapest big iPhone you can get. But if this thin and light iPhone is at least somewhat interesting for you, I would maybe wait, because it might be something totally different to what we've had these past years. On this thin iPhone, generally, I think people either love or hate it. So you will pretty quickly know if you're one of the people that say, oh my God, I need a thinner and lighter iPhone, or if you're one of the people that say, no, it will have bad battery life, bad durability, all of this. And if you're that, of course, then you can just get one of the current iPhones. Let's talk about the Pro iPhone though. The Pro iPhone is rumored to get also a major redesign this year, which is really cool because I think it has looked very similar for quite a while now. Allegedly, it will have like a partial aluminum back, which is quite interesting. I don't know how exactly it will be, but excited to see what it looks like. And the camera bump will also be made of aluminum, so that might be somewhat similar to what's on the iPad Pro M4, which actually is a design I really like, and I think it looks better than the glass camera bump on the current iPhones. And in general, I'm always a fan of replacing glass with metal, because I think it's just much more durable and can survive drops much better. That also means though that unfortunately, apparently the titanium frame that's currently on the iPhones will be replaced by an aluminum frame, or maybe like aluminum titanium mixture, which is somewhat concerning because I think the titanium is really nice and I quite like the titanium that's currently on the iPhone, but we'll see. I think they will figure out a way to make it durable nonetheless. Other than that, it will have a camera upgrade, of course, which I sound so bored just because like the camera has been like the only thing that gets updated every year, but of course camera upgrades are always great. And that one this year will most importantly include a 48 megapixel sensor for the telephoto lens. So currently the iPhone 16 Pro has 48 megapixels on the ultra wide as well as on the regular camera, but not on the telephoto. And if we get the third 48 megapixel camera also for the telephoto this year, that would be really cool, because that would mean that you can shoot 48 megapixel photos across all three cameras. And that might actually also enable 8K video on all three cameras. And I think 8K video in combination with Apple Log would be pretty cool. I think that would be like the best phone quality for video that you can get on any phone. Additionally, it's also supposed to go from 12 to 24 megapixel on the front camera, which is actually an upgrade that might come to all iPhones. Honestly, I don't care that much about it, but it's always good to have a better camera. So I would say it's not the best time to buy the iPhone 16 Pro right now. To me, the iPhone 16 Pro was quite a disappointing upgrade from the 15 Pro. The 15 Pro was a much bigger and like more significant upgrade in my opinion. So I think the 16 Pro, I would just skip it and wait for the 17 Pro if you can. Most people have a phone that works, of course, and if you can wait another 7 months, I think the 17 Pro with a redesign, totally new like materials and all of that, would be pretty cool to have instead of the 16 Pro, which is just like a slightly better iPhone 15 Pro. Okay, so let's move on to the Apple Watch. Of course, for the Apple Watch, it's always coming out with the iPhone, so we also know what to expect. It will come out in September. It's in the same phase of the cycle right now as the iPhone. And usually Apple Watch rumors, surprisingly, aren't really accurate, so I will just go over them pretty quickly, but don't trust them as much as the other ones. So for the Apple Watch SE, this one will probably get an upgrade this year, and I think it's worth waiting for. The only downside is that it might, according to some rumors, actually move to a plastic design, so it will not be made of aluminum anymore, which is kind of weird, but I guess for the cheaper price they have to make it work somehow. If they put better internals in there every time, I think they just want to keep that low price point. So yeah, I think a new chip will be really nice. It will probably give it also a lot more longevity. So I would wait for the new version if you are interested in the Apple Watch SE, but I don't think it's really that big of a mistake to buy the Apple Watch SE right now. It's not a particularly bad time. It's just like if you can wait for another 7 months, then just wait. For the Apple Watch Series 11 and Apple Watch Ultra, it's kind of even more boring. The Apple Watch Series 10 was quite a big upgrade by Apple Watch standards. It got a lot thinner. It got kind of a new-ish body design, at least like the speaker rolls look different. And I think it's probably going to stay like that for a while because that's how the Apple Watch usually goes. The only big feature that's rumored to come to the Apple Watch this year is actually blood pressure monitoring, but it's not blood pressure monitoring in the way you might think. It won't give you like exact readings of your blood pressure. It will just alert you if there's like really big abnormalities in your blood pressure, which is cool, but probably wouldn't compel me to wait. If you're struggling with some of those conditions, I think it might be cool for you to wait, but this is also something that might take until next year anyways. So I don't know how worth it is to wait. To me, it wouldn't be, honestly, because I think the Series 10 is really cool as it is right now. The only problem I have with the Apple Watch Series 10 is that there's no silver titanium version for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know if they will change it with the Series 11. I would think it's pretty cool, but I don't know if that many people would care. And Apple Watch colors usually are like changed in weird ways every year, so we'll see. And the Ultra 3 is kind of the same. The Apple Watch Ultra 2 is also already 2 years old in September of this year. So there will probably be an Ultra 3 this year, but it should look the same in terms of the body. The only added functionality beyond the blood pressure that is also rumored for the Series 11 is satellite connectivity. So you will also be able to make calls and send messages over satellite, just like on the iPhone, which, if you're one of the people that knows that they will use this, would be pretty cool, I guess. But I don't think many people will use this very regularly, so it's not really a big upgrade, and it's not really something that you should wait for. I think the Ultra 2 is fine to buy right now because it will not change significantly this year. Okay, so let's go over the AirPods pretty quickly as well. AirPods 4 just came out. They're great. I have made a video about them actually. The AirPods 4 with ANC really surprised me with how good they are, and I use them almost more than my AirPods Pro. But I think that also means it's just a great time to buy them right now. They're still pretty new. Probably you can get them at a discount right now. And yeah, if you want the regular AirPods, just go and buy them. AirPods Pro are a bit of a different story. The AirPods Pro 2 are now almost 2.5 years old. In September, they will be 3 years old. And that means that it might be something that Apple might update. There have been a lot of software improvements for the AirPods Pro 2 in the meantime, like the hearing aid, hearing test, the adaptive noise cancellation, and there was also the USB-C case that came out in 2023, but I still think they might be due for an upgrade this year. This is also what the rumors say. Either this year or next year a new version will come out. So if you can wait and you want to buy them right now, I think it might make sense to wait until September if you can wait that long, because a new version is always cool. Like the AirPods Pro to the AirPods Pro 2 was quite a good upgrade, and I think the AirPods Pro 3 would also be nice to have if you're buying them anyway and can wait. Then just wait. Last but not least, I also wanted to quickly go over something that is not really a regular thing for Apple, but always exciting when it happens, and that's like new product launches. Of course, that won't really influence your purchase decisions right now, but I think it's still interesting to know. And apparently Apple is working on a HomePod with a display. According to the rumors, it will be something either like just the regular HomePod we have right now with the top as a display, or a full-on like HomePod stand with a robotic arm display attached to it, and it will follow you around, whatever. So we don't really know what it will look like, but I'm really like curious to see what it looks like when it comes out. It should come out probably in the second half of the year, and I mean, I'm a little bit concerned because like my HomePods currently, I have kind of a love-hate relationship. I like them most of the time just for playing music, but Siri, of course, isn't really great, and Apple Intelligence isn't really coming to the HomePods currently. So we'll see what this HomePod with a display looks like, but it's just something that you can expect from Apple, and I think new products are always interesting, so let's see where they go with this. Okay, so this was my overview over Apple's roadmap for 2025 according to the rumors. I hope it helped you out, because I think, of course, you can't really plan your purchases according to Apple's roadmap all of the time, but I think it's really annoying if you buy something and a couple of weeks later there's a new version that came out. So I think if you can just kind of keep in mind at least when the new products are most likely to come out, it always makes sense to do that. And that way, I hope I could help you out with this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next week.